a very warm welcome
This meeting
to
is being
the
recorded.
Creating a Sustainable Transport Network for Hertfordshire and Beyond. My name is John Woodruff and I'm Head of International Trade and Policy here at the Hertfordshire Chamber of Commerce. It's good to see such interest in this subject, which is really going to be both exciting and quite challenging, I'm sure. And I'm also really pleased to say that today we're joined by two of our patrons, namely the Hertfordshire Community Services NHS Trust and the University of Hertfordshire. I'm very much delighted to be hosting this event in conjunction with our colleagues at Hertfordshire County Council, with Rupert and Darren, who I'll introduce shortly. And before I continue, just a little bit of housekeeping. This session, as you may have seen, is being recorded. We will also have the opportunity for questions and answers, so please do think up many questions for these two guys. It'll help formulate the development of the proposal going forward, and they really do want to hear your views and hear from you. It helps them build a bigger picture, and build up their project. Before we go on to Rupert and Darren, I would just wonder, Georgia, could we just, if nobody minds, if we just do a quick photograph of everybody on screen just for the website and everything else? So I'm simply stuck on heart.
That's fine. If Darren can then please stop sharing his screen, and then what we'll do is we'll take a quick photo of everyone.
Thanks, Georgia. Okay. Great. And be a second, then we'll get on to the main business in hand. Lovely.
Okay, great, perfect. Okay, so if you'd like to be in the picture, please turn on your webcam, and after 3, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And then we'll just do one more for the next screen. Perfect. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thanks, Georgia, and thanks, everybody. Okay, so to the main business hand of today, as I say, if I can introduce two speakers. Firstly, Rupert Thacker, who is Head of Highway Strategy and Implementation at Hertfordshire County Council. Rupert has worked in the industry for 20 years and heads up the team responsible for the development and delivery of the county's transport strategies in line with the local transport plan. This includes projects ranging from new large-scale infrastructure such as the HERT, the HART, to the implementation of smaller scale based improvements in existing and new communities. These include schemes to improve conditions for walking and cycling and to support the high street. And secondly, Darren Granger, the HERT project sponsor from Herts County Council. Darren has been delivering transport projects within Hertfordshire for over 30 years, previously as Head of Profession for Integrated Transport Projects, delivering the county's programme of highway improvement schemes. More recently, has undertaken the role of project sponsor on Hertfordshire's major infrastructure projects, including the new River Bridge improvements in Hoddesdon and the A120 Little Haddam bypass and flood alleviation scheme. Okay, that's enough from me, and please let's go over to I think it's Darren going to start first. So Darren, over to you, please.
I think Rupert's going to do stuff.
Okay, you're coming there, Rupert.
I'll control the slides.
Smash it. Okay, Rupert, over to you.
Thanks very much, John. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for having us along to present on the Hertfordshire Essex Rapid Transit. You might formerly have heard us talking about the Hertfordshire Mass Rapid Transit scheme that has now been renamed to reflect the, I suppose, the new development stage that we're in, and also to brand it with our colleagues in Essex in relation to that Western Essex connection that we're trying to deliver. So as John said, Darren and myself are leading the development of this project at the moment within Herts County Council's Highways group. And it's a long-term project aimed to bring about a step change in the way people travel around Hertfordshire in the next 10 to 15 years. So it has got a longer-term horizon. We're just going to rip you through today the vision, what the corridor's like, why we need the HART in the context of a number of areas, where we've got to in its development and what we think that solution starts to look like, and then how we start to take the project forward. And then at the end, we'd be very, very pleased to have some questions and conversation around people's thoughts, where we are on the project and what it might need to look like in the future, because that is a vital part of this stage of the scheme's gestation. So if we could move on to the next slide, please, Darren, that would be great. So just to really give you a brief summary of what we're aiming to achieve with this, we're looking to deliver a connected 45-kilometre route across Hertfordshire into Western Essex. The engagement that we've just been undertaking focuses really on the section within Hertfordshire, so between Gilston, Hemel Hempstead and Watford. And the width of the arrow really is just demonstrating sort of where the connection is between the Abbey Line service that runs between St Albans and Watford, and will ultimately be part of the overall Hert solution to delivering this connected transport network. And then the section from Hemel Hempstead to Gilston across the centre of Hertfordshire. It is a broad corridor at the moment, and we haven't identified the particular routings. What I would say is within that corridor, we already know that in Hertfordshire as a whole, we've got a huge amount of growth coming forward, and there's 50 new homes planned within 5 kilometres broadly of the 414. It's very much aligned to our local transport plan. Transport Plan 4 that was adopted in 2018. This follows on from the A414 strategy that was developed in 2019 and highlighted the need for us to be looking at different ways to move people through what is the busiest corridor that we have in Hertfordshire, aside from the strategic road network M25, M1, A1. But this is Hertfordshire's busiest road with some quite acute challenges around congestion and environmental aspects as we move forward. Recognising that, I think it's worth just going on to the next slide, please, Dan. Obviously, I should have pointed out on that first one, what this scheme does is connect us between all of the very well-served north-south routes that we have in Hertfordshire. I mentioned the M1, the A1, but we've also got the 4 mainline railways that travel north-south through Hertfordshire and provide great connectivity into and out of London to destinations north. But what we haven't got is a very good opportunity for people to travel between them. What this does is provide you with that opportunity to travel, say, from Watford on the Abbey Line, get on the Hert to the East Coast Main Line to Hatfield or Welwyn Garden City interchange, and you'll be able to travel north to Stevenage, to the new life sciences campuses that are being developed. And it opens up that network that I'll come on to a little bit in the future. It stops that need to go in and out of London, the time that takes, and obviously the cost that's associated for people. It also helps that connectivity to the airports. It connects both Luton and Stansted for people travelling from them or working at them, which I think is a step change in the way people will be able to access those kinds of areas. If we go on to the next slide, please, Darren. So just to, as I say, we've already got 50,000 homes along the corridor, but in the context of Hertfordshire, and this is a scheme that touches every corner of Hertfordshire, really, when you look at the broader connectivity, there's 100,000 new homes planned by the mid-2030s. That's 175 or 200,000 extra people that will be looking to move about on our network one way or another. And clearly, as I've said, that there's a significant challenge that comes with that about how we ensure that that can be delivered sustainably long term in the future without negatively impacting on our existing behaviours. So if we can go on, Darren, to the next one, please. What we've tried to do is look at that through 3 kind of areas, really. So we've obviously got the economic aspect to the heart. We're looking to ensure that it improves access to jobs, it improves access to labour markets, it should help people access more specific educational needs that they want, services. As I say, it certainly will hopefully unlock businesses' access to skills, training, and support the high quality jobs that are being developed in Hertfordshire. Environmentally, we need to reduce our carbon emissions. We've got an ambition within Hertfordshire to be, within the County Council, to be net zero carbon by 2030 and Hertfordshire as a whole by 2050. And this obviously includes looking quite carefully at how this system might be able to consider aspects of moving people about, and also potentially freight and other aspects like that. It links quite closely with our sustainable travel out town ambitions set out within Local Transport Plan 4 and the reimagining of urban settlements that would sit along this corridor to be able to link to it and connect with it as best they possibly can, so that first mile, last mile journey is able to be undertaken sustainably, maybe by foot, bike, or improved passenger transport or shared mobility solutions as they start to develop in the future in Hertfordshire. Just to give you a snapshot of some of the existing uses along the 414, what we've looked at and what we know from our study is that very few people travel end to end, very few people travel from either Hemel all the way across to Gilston or Harlow. What we tend to have is short hops between towns or leapfrogging towns, sort of 5 to 10 or 15 mile journeys are generally the norm on the 414. And on its busiest section, so section south of St Albans, that pre-pandemic, it was carrying something like 34,000 vehicles a day. Of those, 76% of them are private car. with only 5% of those journeys being by bus and 2% by bike. So there's a huge opportunity here to shift some of those behaviours given the types of journey that are taking place. What we're looking to do is ensure that it's affordable, accessible system for all. And as I say, joining up that passenger transport network with the rail system unlocks a huge new set of journey opportunities for people to be able to undertake. If we can go on to the next slide, Darren, please. Why do we need to act now? As I said, the 414 has its challenges, as we know. The towns along it have its challenges, particularly places like Watford, St Albans and Hertford are all very well known congestion hotspots on our network, particularly pre-pandemic in peak times. And we know that the average journey time along the corridor is likely to increase by 25% by 2031 if those sorts of travel patterns continue into the future. And there's some very big ifs and buts. The pandemic has changed a lot of our behaviours, but we're not clear yet on what that's going to look like going forward and what changes are going to stay and what might even change further in the future that might improve things, or it could potentially make them worse. So we do know we need to do something, and we certainly know that we need to be focusing very strongly on making sure that we're reducing our carbon emissions and we're delivering more sustainable long-term outcomes to support Hertfordshire into the future. We go on to the next one, Darren. So I'll let you read the vision for yourself, but we've developed a vision for the scheme. And as I've said before, really, it's an opportunity to reset people's aspirations and expectations for transport in Hertfordshire in the future, to give them an opportunity to do things differently and better as we go forward. I'll hand over to Darren now, take you through a few more of the detailed aspects of the project, and then we're both more than happy for some questions at the end. Thanks.
Darren, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, thank you.
Great. So it's to do with that audio share, I think. Thank you. Yeah, so for the Heart solution itself, again, although we haven't fixed any specific routes or the type of vehicle technology at this stage, we have been working through some of our key requirements for the Heart system. So in terms of the vehicle, what we're looking at is a sort of modern, comfortable and spacious design that is easy for passengers to use. We want to make sure that it's an accessible vehicle for all passengers, so things like step-free access at each stop, allowing passengers to enter and exit with ease. Wide aisles within the vehicle so you can freely move around inside, and a comfortable seating for a relaxing journey. I think, as Rupert said earlier, we're looking at sort of zero emission vehicles to reduce that environmental impact and help improve air quality. And we'd have things like full digital connectivity that allows passengers to get online while on the move. So again, sort of trying to help make sort of productive journeys while you're on the vehicle. In terms of the infrastructure, so what we're looking at is priority on the network to ensure that journey times are reliable and efficient. That might be through segregation of the route where possible. Again, that's sort of still to be decided and assessed. Along the route, we'll have multimodal interchanges, providing easy access for onward journeys, again by rail, by bus, walking or cycling. So really looking at those active travel connections as well to our transport hubs. High quality waiting facilities, again live travel information. I think one of the key points is we're looking at this will have fewer stops than a conventional bus service, again to provide that faster journey times between destinations. So again, we're looking at sort of what key destinations we need to serve. So that's probably a key difference to a traditional passenger transport and bus network in Hertfordshire. It needs to be fit for the future. So again, we're looking at how it can be sort of scalable and flexible to adapt to sort of long-term changes in any future travel patterns and travel demand. So for example, being able to extend routes to serve new developments as they come forward within Hertfordshire. And we want the flexibility to adapt to any technology changes. One of the key things is, and obviously people are interested to know what type of technology, but technology is moving at such a rapid pace at the moment that we don't really want to sort of pin this down at the moment. I think we're talking about this system sort of being hopefully up and running in about 10 to 15 years. And as we know, things are moving fairly fast in the technology area. So again, that's one of the reasons that we haven't pinned that down. In terms of information and ticketing, again, we're looking for a sort of turn up and go service, want easy and convenient ticketing options online through mobile apps. And at stops which can be purchased to avoid delays. Again, that's quite a key thing about how ticketing works. And the capacity needs to be able to move large numbers of people efficiently. So again, depending on sort of size of vehicle, maybe double length vehicles, again, that depends on exactly how much patronage we get in certain areas on certain parts of the route. Move on to the next slide. So in terms of the steps in the project, so at the moment, again, this project to this scale is going to take a number of years to develop, sort of, as I said, 10 to 15 years, and then it will need substantial investment from local and central government, together with private sector partners. Now, we're at the early stage of developing these proposals for the Heart. We've got a number of steps to go through before it could be built, and we're going to make sure that we consult with stakeholders and the public at each stage. Again, sort of ongoing stakeholder engagement throughout that duration of that scheme. So we're really at step one at the moment, the early options stage, which we call our strategic outline business case. We're currently putting that document together for the scheme to submit to government later this sort of spring. And this will explore the benefits of the Heart provide, what different options are available, potential costs. So really looking at that sort of cost benefit analysis of the sort of strategic vision for the scheme. And that'll hopefully help us secure funding to develop the project further. Obviously, any feedback from the public engagement that we've just recently undertaken will be considered and fed into that strategic outline business case, as well as feedback from stakeholders. The next step really, once sort of seek funding and develop a scheme around sort of consultation, probably further consultation from 2022 onwards. And then we'll be asking for views on a sort of short list of different route options that have been identified to help us to select preferred options for routing and how that will operate. So that's really the stage where we'll get to know exactly where the Heart will travel. Beyond that, we'll continue developing the scheme into our outline business case stage. So that will set out, again, what's required to build and operate the system, how much it would cost, and exactly the resulting benefits. And that will be really where we'll start to sort of lock down some of the funding we need for the scheme and work up in the more technical design stage. And then we get into getting permission, so planning and consents and creating a full business case. Again, once we have the confidence that the scheme is fundable, we'll get the statutory powers and approvals we need, such as planning permission, if there was any land acquisition that was required. And we'd also need to identify at that point who's going to sort of build and who's going to operate the Heart. And that will all go into our full business case to unlock the funding for construction. And then the final stage is construction. Again, once we have all the necessary powers and approvals, again, we're likely to do that in phases. And we're trying to sort of look at that at the moment, thinking ahead about how we will tie that in. We are at the moment looking at passenger transport in the county in terms of a bus service improvement plan, and that's looking at potentially priority measures for bus services across the network. So we're trying to see how that would fit in with the future vision for the Heart. So again, given the ambitious scale of the project, it's going to take quite a while to develop. I'll move on to the next slide. So we have pulled together a 3-minute video, which helps to explain the need for the Heart, and it follows the journey of a typical user on the Heart in 2035, and it explains the benefits of the Heart, so how to get involved. So I think if I try and play that now, it'll give a good sort of overview and summary of what me and Rupert have covered. I understand the sound is quite quiet. I apologise for that. I think we've got a few technical issues, but I will try and play that for you now.
The future looks bright for Hertfordshire and Essex. We are looking to improve the future of our east-west travel and wider connectivity. In the next 15 years, we are planning for more than 100,000 new jobs and more than 100,000 new homes to meet our needs. But we are already experiencing increasing demands on our transport network, which is putting a strain on our infrastructure, our health, and the environment. How can we make sure this growth is sustainable and inclusive for all? Let's look at a typical day in 2035. With our lives changing at a rapid pace, our transport network needs to transform too. To embrace these changes, the Heart will provide a fast, frequent and affordable experience for passengers, making it easier to travel across Hertfordshire and into West Essex. Designed with the user in mind, it will transform how people will travel door to door. The system will be convenient and comfortable, linking people to places they live, work and visit, both rural and urban, providing an attractive alternative to the car and helping achieve the government's net zero target. Onboard digital technology will keep users connected while they travel in comfort, enabling multitasking and productive journeys. The Hart will connect with town centres, rail and bus stations along the route, linking with improved bus services and cycling and walking routes, which we are already investing in. We're supporting healthier, more environmentally friendly lifestyles, helping to connect communities to build cleaner, greener, healthier places for people, creating a bright future for our town centres. And the businesses investing in our area. The Hart will create a new east-west travel spine, with better connected transport interchanges for journeys in and around Hertfordshire and Essex, providing access to jobs and opportunities for our existing and future residents, enabling our world-class businesses to reach a wider customer base, supporting our strong and resilient economy by building back better and delivering levelling up to improve opportunity for all, allowing us to boost productivity and ensure sustainable economic growth. We have a number of steps to go through in the development and delivery of this innovative project. With the support of residents, businesses and other organisations, we can realise our sustainable growth and transport vision. We need your help to build a transport system that works for everyone. To get involved, please visit www.hertfordshire.gov.uk/Hart.
Okay, hopefully we're back to the slideshow now. Good.
Hello, I'm Phil Bibby. I'm the Executive Member for Highways and Transport, and I'm here to launch this exciting new project, the Herts Links, which is our first
council something that's happening in the background.
Service in the county. There are going to be 9.
Thank you. Right, okay, back to that. Sorry, apologies for that. So we've recently finished our public engagement exercise. Again, that ran from the 18th of November to the 28th of January. Again, people had the opportunity to complete a survey. We had a virtual exhibition room there, and again, they could attend live events, sort of listen to the presentation that you've just heard, view the video. The information is still available on our website, I think, at www.hertfordshire.gov.uk/Hart, so you can see that information there if you'd like to. In terms of the survey that we asked the public, really, it was around a little bit about themselves, and then we asked about their travel habits. So again, sort of the mode and purpose and the main issues they experience with using passenger transport. Again, whether they agreed with our vision that we've set out. Again, a view on the towns and stations that the Hart will serve. And again, how they might use it in the future. So what would make them use public transport? What would make it attractive for them? What type of journeys would they use it for? And finally, whether they agree with the benefits of the Hart and whether they support the project. So that was really, we're currently sort of analysing that feedback from the public. We've also been having various stakeholder meetings and presentations like this. We had a session, I think we've mentioned it, we had a session with MPs as well, sort of get their feedback. So we're really at the moment sort of in the information gathering stage and getting feedback from people on the vision and see if people are supportive of what we're trying to achieve. So I think that is the end of what me and Rupert wanted to present. About half an hour through, leaves us half an hour, I think, for questions and discussion. So I think really open to the floor. Rupert, I don't know if you want to say anything finally.
My last really that we are really keen to hear people's views, feedback on this and thoughts for the future, and how, particularly from the Chamber's point of view, it can support business and commerce going forward as a project, and what it might need to do specifically to do that.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, both of you. Any questions at the moment? I see there's nothing in the chat room currently, but I do emphasise that they do want to hear your views and your thoughts. Yeah, perhaps I'll kick off while people are perhaps thinking of something to ask. But early results from the survey that you've just completed on the 28th of January. What are the initial indications from people? I know it's only been a week or so, but initial indications?
We've had nearly 1,000 responses, haven't we? Or just over 1,000 responses, I think, Darren, which is pretty good for this scheme's development. Broadly speaking, I think people understand the ambition. There's some obvious challenges to whether it will ever happen. This is a big scheme. It's got some big numbers attached to it, and some, quite clearly some challenges to get this type of infrastructure delivered on the ground. But counter to that, I would say there is a huge amount of growth and change within this section of Hertfordshire, and we need to be doing something different, and that's recognised within our strategies. So having this idea, being able to spell it out to government, hopefully being able to demonstrate that there's a strong level of support for it, puts us in a really good place to be able to take it forward. Just picking up on one of the points in the chat, there are lots of considerations within this, be it bikes, be it how people access the service, and how cost effective it is for people to use it. It's very hard to predict what 10 or even what 5 years from now might look in transport terms, let alone 10 or 15. So we are trying our very best to get a view as to how this would fit with what transport might look like then. So advent of autonomous vehicles, certainly connected vehicles. And as I said before, that kind of balancing of our urban areas to make walking and cycling the first choice for those smaller, shorter journeys that currently a huge amount of are undertaken by private car, just because of convenience, because people don't feel safe doing something else. And picking up on that point, the 414 isn't bike friendly, be that pedal bike or electric bike, or even, dare I say, motorcycle. In some cases, the network is car based. So this is trying to reach a different balance.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, thank you for that. Cindy, do you want to come in and you mentioned about people using public transport from rural places. Do you want to come in? Georgia, can we bring Cindy in, and so Cindy can get her point across? And
hi, yes, I live in a village, and it's not particularly workable to get a bus down to the train station to commute in and out of London, for example, or even to go and pick your kids up from school. So the buses that do run through our village are mainly aimed at the older generation getting in and out of town.
Yeah, you're dead right, and it does need a kind of holistic approach to all of this. So the video that started playing, funnily enough, when Darren had finished the one on the Hart was something called the Hart's Links, which is a new demand responsive rural transport service that we've just looked to do a trial of with some DFT funding, which is much more akin to what I think you were aiming at really there, which is something that you can get on your phone the night before on the app. You can book the vehicle to come and collect you from your nearest bus stop, and you can check that it's going to get you to the station on time for the service that you need from your station. So these newer technologies, a slightly different approach to how we deliver rural mobility is something that needs to be part of this to be able to get that connectivity. Like you say, it is that being able to get to the Hart corridor, being able to get to the station, that's really important for people, and it has to work. It can't be a kind of hit or miss approach, because you only really get one, maybe two chances to make it work for people, which I think comes on to one of the other points, just to what would prevent these vehicles getting stuck in traffic.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
You make them reliable, and it has to have a dedicated corridor. It has to have the built-in priority. It cannot just sit in the same queue as all the other traffic. So a big part of our work is to identify that corridor, and then to start looking at how we create that dedicated path for this fleet of vehicles to be able to run along. Straight through junctions, going past the queues of traffic, to be able to run reliably on time, so that you can trust it.
Right, thank you.
If I can jump in there on that point, I would think it would be pretty detrimental to use the existing network for that priority. So if you start taking up the existing lanes and junctions and traffic lights and so on by having priority lanes and lights for these vehicles and so on, that's just going to make the existing traffic network worse, isn't it? And if we've got an increase of people coming into the area and using the traffic network, we don't just need a bit more, we also need to relieve the existing. So by using existing network for priority situations will only make the existing situation worse.
I think a lot of it's understanding what the existing network's been, how it's being used and why, which is a lot of the work that we've been doing. As I say, an awful lot of the journeys that are being done are fairly short, and an awful lot of the journeys are only between towns. And if you can get this service to fulfill that need for maybe 20–25% of those people doing it, it'd be amazing how much traffic you could draw from the existing network onto a HART type vehicle. Equally, there are sections where we think you might be able to do something either online or offline without a huge amount of impact. In some areas, when you just look at it broadly, it's usually the junctions and the key areas that you get the congestion. The actual free-flowing sections of network are generally not so much of the issue. But there are going to be some difficult decisions to be made to deliver this. That there isn't infinite space, particularly if you're trying to get through town centres, particularly if you're trying to access stations, and those key transport interchanges. And that's the points at which I think some quite difficult conversations are going to be had. But I think you have to bear in mind the bigger agenda, that the sustainability, as you rightly point out, the pressure that the network is going to be coming under as you get more people utilising it. And really, it's about how you make efficient use of that network to meet the needs of most people. If you can get those that can use it onto a system or doing things differently, be it walking, cycling, catching local bus services to access the network, then it does help make sure that the remainder of the network is available for those people that need it for other purposes.
I think it's worth, Rupert, reiterating your point there about, if we don't do anything, but by 2031, journey times are going to get 25% more. So, the fact is we can't keep up with the demand for the car and so that traffic growth. We've got to look at doing something differently. And I think there is going to be some tough decisions to be made. Okay,
we've got a few questions and a few hands up. What I'll do is I'll switch between the two to be fair to everybody. I'll go to Malcolm Newman next, and I was actually going to ask a sort of similar question. I know Manchester and Leeds, I think it has got a very good tram network, but Malcolm, do you want to ask your question about Croxley Link?
I'm just basically saying there's been all the previous proposals, Croxley Link, improvements to Abbey Line. How is the HART project taking cognizance of what was proposed and what might still be feasible?
Did you want to pick that one up, Darren? I know you're leading our Watford to Croxley.
Yeah, so at the moment we've just started to engage with the market on some concept design work for the Watford to Croxley link, as we're now calling it, the corridor there. So again, some very early stage work to look at what forms of transport could sort of take along that corridor. Obviously, one of the clear things from before was that heavy rail wasn't stacking up commercially in terms of sort of the business case and the cost benefit there. Again, so we're not ruling that out, but obviously, what we are saying to the market is if they're coming up with concept design options, that we do need to look for that sort of cost benefit analysis and prove that it's going to stack up. Things like pods have been suggested to run along that corridor, a number of things. So again, we're starting that work there. Also, there's a Restoring Your Railway Fund bid out at the moment for the Abbey line, which we're still waiting to hear from DfT on whether that's been successful. And that was to try and look at putting a passing loop on the Abbey line, again, to improve that service frequency. Depending on whether that's successful, again, we might have to look at what that corridor could be used for, because the key aim is to get, again, sort of improved service frequency and a better public transport system for everyone. So certainly both the Abbey line and the Watford to Croxley link are tied into the HART project and will be part of our considerations going forward.
Thanks, Darren. I'll go to the hands next. I'm not sure who put the first hand up, so I'll start at that end. Nana Blomqvist, over to you.
Oh, hi, good morning, everyone. So I work at the University of Hertfordshire. I'm the Senior Sustainability and Environment Advisor. I'm not sure if from your conversations at the beginning, but you might have been speaking to some of my colleagues already. So I had a couple of questions. Obviously, this project is a long-term project, and you mentioned 15 years and so on. I was wondering, is there going to be some sort of pilot scheme in the meantime to test routes, sort of going more east to west? Because I think from the university perspective, whoever doesn't come from north and south, they are coming very much from west, in Hertford, St Albans, and I think that might be a useful thing to sort of do a pilot scheme to work out routes. So that's one of my questions. The other one is, you mentioned that you've already been speaking to lots of stakeholders. So I just wanted to check if, for example, if you have or will have any conversations with Unobus, who are a UH subsidiary, and as well as we've got, you probably know Stephen Joseph and Dr. Scott Copsey, who run the Smart Mobility Unit. So I was just wondering if there's any opportunity to collaborate, you know, given that we're in Hatfield, and I think this is something, we've just had a travel survey within the university as well, because we're very much looking at how to solve some of the challenges with transport, not just from a congestion and time, but from sustainability angle as well. So I'd be interested to hear if there are any more opportunities to sort of collaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, so certainly, you know, we have been collaborating, or I wouldn't go as far as collaborating. We've certainly been in discussion with and presented to, and you know, spoken with Scott, Stephen, presented at the charrette, you know, alongside them around sustainable transit, good development, what it looks like, the holistic approach to it. We've also presented to all the bus operators in Hertfordshire through our Enhanced Partnership Board. And again, I think it's fair to say that, you know, they're all commercial operations, so they keep their cards quite close to their chest.
Yeah.
Always happy to have a discussion with them that we will treat in confidence to understand any specific concerns or opportunities they think that exist, which really fits with the ideas that, you know, how can we start moving some of this forward in the short term? And you might be aware we've recently launched our BSIP, Bus Service Improvement Plan, which is a national level document. We've put forward a bid, I think, for something over £90 million worth of funding to support bus services and in infrastructure improvements in Hertfordshire. And really, that might be the first stage of trying to make some of this network tie together. Sort of more standard bus priority measures that will then evolve into a much more connected corridor that different fleets of vehicles and operations can take on as we go forward. This needs to work very much in unison with existing bus services and future mobility options to be successful. So yeah, we're very keen to continue working with the university, and maybe if we could have a chat with you, Nana and Scott and Stephen, around how that might sort of knit together a little bit more, because I think time is always a challenge for all of us, but it would be really good to get some students involved, do some working groups, hear their thoughts, that kind of thing that would add value to the process as well.
Yeah, I think so. I know there's a new master's unit on sustainable transport, and they'd be keen to get that sort of research opportunity there as well. So happy to help arrange that going forward. That would be really useful, I think.
Super.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you very much indeed. To the chat room now, Robin says Hart looks great, but will take a number of years to develop. What's possible in the interim to address current transport challenges?
Again, I think it's back to some of those points I just raised. We've got the BSIP. We're looking to identify key towns and corridors. Again, some quite challenging conversations probably to be had as to how you get meaningful bus and sustainable transport improvements into confined urban areas. Somewhere like St Albans is historically always problematic. And when you want to make changes, every change has a consequence, and different people have views on what those consequences are like on them. So it is continuing to have the discussions, to develop the options, and to have have in mind the fact that these are long-term strategic changes that need to be made to help us deliver a more sustainable transport network. And I mean sustainable in all senses of the word, not just environmentally, but economically, and one that is going to continue to work rather than just lock up if we carry on doing more of the same. So I do think it's about us working with all stakeholders, and that's why it's really good that we get the opportunities like today to be able to take on board views and understand the short-term drivers, longer-term ambitions, and how we evolve a project through its life, particularly when we've got something that's sort of 5, 10, 15 years in development. And I do think it's things like picking up where we can. We've already got the active travel fund schemes that we're delivering in Hertfordshire, so we secured over £6.5 million worth of funding from government to put some high quality cycling infrastructure in line with their new guidance. So we're delivering those in various locations around the county. We've had some trials going on on a site in Welwyn Garden City to see if that does provide a better environment, whilst hopefully not taking too much away from the existing capacity of the network. So I do think it is about trialling, experimenting, but having that done in a very open and transparent way so that people can give their feedback and changes can be made and taken on board as we do it.
Okay, thank you. Back to the hands now, Alistair.
Hello, thank you. Just a couple of observations. The first one I just wanted to make is that, at the moment, government is obsessed with carbon, and we talk about zero emission vehicles. I'd just like to make sure that the procurement policies are, minimize environmental impact through from, an electric vehicle still has emissions. And what we need to make sure is that the whole scheme, from a procurement point of view, from commissioning through to disposal of vehicles, through to rubber coming off tires, etc., is angled from that point of view. And I think it'd be good if procurement policies started to address this as early as possible. The second point is in terms of the public feedback. This again is something else that's come out of Hertfordshire County Council that I, as a chairman of a parish council, was completely unaware of. And you say you've received 1,000 responses across Hertfordshire. I think that's pretty poor on something that is of this importance. We really need to, as a council, be communicating better with the public, and they need to utilise. There's over 100 parish councils within Hertfordshire who have access and local to the local communities around them. Something has more impact if it comes from us locally to asking people to complete, rather than just being sent out centrally and bypassing us. This is an important factor. It's the second important piece of research I'm aware of that's come out of Hertfordshire County Council in the last few months that has completely passed us by.
Okay, I think we can look into that, because my understanding was that it did go out to the parish council. So there was a list of parish council contacts that it went to. But Alistair, if that's missed your parish for some reason, maybe we need to look into that. So I can certainly we can find out in the background there.
I'd be grateful if you would, because in the past, what seems to have happened is that they seem to have used HAPTC as the vehicle for communicating.
Yeah. And I think this is a long journey as well. It isn't the end of the consultation. So this was, again, some of the stuff is really very high level, early stage stuff around the vision and things like that. So there's still plenty of time to input. So I think we can pick that up with our comms team.
Overall, though, looks good.
Yeah, thank you.
Super. And the point about total kind of carbon footprint and sustainability of the whole project is something that we are thinking about right from the very start of it.
Thank you, Alistair. And that leads nicely onto a question from Andy. Are there plans to make all buses electric?
Well, I'm not really able to speak entirely on behalf of our passenger transport network, but I certainly think there is an ambition to move towards a much lower emission fleet over the next few years. We have got a bid in where we're working with Stevenage Borough Council, Zebra bid, and I can't remember what that stands for, but it is for zero emission vehicles and fleet to be established in the town as a trial to see how that works. There's obviously challenges with operating larger vehicles electrically, but we are committed to working with operators to help them wherever possible to reduce the emissions of their fleets.
Thank you. Nigel, you've been very patient there with your hand up. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Nigel Grant from Brandywine Business Support. Other than I think Rupert said big numbers, I've not actually heard any numbers about what this overall project might cost and where the funding might come from. I think you did mention potentially looking for government support or government grants, but where are you on projected costs over the next, say, 10 to 15 years and cost of final construction and operation?
So we think we've done some initial estimating work that places that puts this between a sort of £1.5 to 2 billion or £2 billion project in its entirety. If you look at it in terms of refocusing the way people move around towns, how we look at the whole transport network associated with it. Obviously, there's different ways you can look at the total cost of the project. But if you look at the change it needs across the board, it is a significant amount of funding. Clearly, government aren't going to have maybe as much money as we hoped when this scheme initially started off, and obviously there's been some discussions around the levelling up funding and things like that we're waiting to really understand what that might mean for Hertfordshire. But we are going to be looking to work with the EFT. We're engaged with them at the moment around the project. We're looking to understand opportunities for how we work with large-scale developers, capture value from those developments to make sure that they're able to contribute to these sorts of projects, and then look at any other funding opportunities that might come about, income, working with private sector, different ways to fund a project like this as we go forward. Obviously, there's been different ways that TfL have looked to fund some of their larger scale infrastructure projects that we might be having to consider for a project like this in Hertfordshire.
Okay, can I just clarify what you said at the beginning there? You think maybe 1.5 to 2 billion cost?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'm muting myself there. Thank you, Nigel. Nikki, do you want to come on? How many years have we been doing this? Nikki, do you want to come in about your question about the older generation? Hope you're not referring to me. Nikki, are you still there or? No, okay. No, I think not. No, Nikki asked, I think that the older generation needs to be considered who may not have access to booking tickets online, etc. Also, many rely on local buses for short stops. Will this scheme mean that local bus services will be reduced?
I would hope it won't mean local bus services won't be reduced, although you have to remember a lot of them are commercially run in Hertfordshire. So there's a challenge to ensuring that they can continue to run commercially, and COVID has had quite a significant impact on patronage over the last couple of years, and has yet to fully restore itself to where it was. But no, I'd hope that actually a system like this would help reinvigorate bus services, people accessing the Hert corridor by bus, as I said before. Fully recognise that there are parts of the communities that haven't got access or aren't comfortable with using some of the different technologies, and we do need to make sure that we've got a fully accessible system that works for everybody, whether that's through being able to phone up and make sure that you can do it, whether it's still accepting ticket or cashless, cash type payments rather than entirely reliant on mobile technology. But as I say, to understand what that looks like in 5 years is difficult, but in 15 years I think is almost impossible. But yes, it will, that sort of equalities and impact assessments will be part of developing a scheme like this.
We did early stage work with a company called Transport for All, again, so that was about trying to understand, again, just sort of different demographics and abilities and things like that. So yeah, trying to make sure that whatever we do will be accessible for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. I don't think there's any more hands up. Nigel and Nan, you've still got hands up, but I don't know if you've got any more questions at all. If not, I'll go to Alec Bright. Are you still with us, please, about investing in infrastructure? Do you want to come and ask your question?
Hi, yes. I was actually wondering whether we could probably halve the cost or more if we invested in the current services that were already being provided between those points. Both ourselves and operate services between Watford and Hemel, Hatfield, Hertford and Ware. And I just wondered if infrastructure improvements would be the way forward to speed those services up rather than coming up with something brand new. And I think it was Nikki that mentioned that conventional bus services might be reduced if Hert was operating, and that would be a fear of mine too. There are currently 8 to 10 buses an hour, I believe, at peak times between Hatfield and St Albans, stopping at all stops. And obviously there wouldn't be 8 to 10 buses an hour. There just wouldn't be a need for it if we have these Hert vehicles running limited stop at high frequencies. So if you wanted to go somewhere in between, Smallford, for example, and the Hert didn't stop there, you might find yourself waiting longer for a conventional bus to get you there. So I'm just wondering whether we're actually tackling this the right way.
Yeah, it's a very valid point. As I said, the BSIP is certainly looking to possibly create a kind of halfway house that does certainly look to support and improve the network for existing services. What we're trying to do here is create the network. We haven't worked out an operational model, and I think we were clear about that when we met with bus providers or bus service providers at the start of the engagement process. But I do think branding, having a visibility to the public is very important so that people know what they're getting. So it might be that through the enhanced partnership and the work that we're doing there, this could end up being a system that does build on the existing network. But we don't know, when we talk about the technologies, we really don't know what they're going to look like. So I do think a dedicated sort of semi-fixed provision is important for people. That permanency of a project and of a service is vital for them. But working with operators is something we're committed to through this process, and hopefully it can be seen as an opportunity rather than a threat, because the last thing we want to do is detract from existing passenger transit in Hertfordshire.
Thanks, Rupert. Yeah, you kind of answered that before after I typed in your previous question to Nana as well, I think. Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed. Helen, a bike question.
Yeah, I think I already know the answer. It's way too far ahead to really look at the actual type of vehicles and stuff, but really it's a plea to ensure that when vehicles are procured, that we sort of really look at how we have space for bicycles, because I think it's important that we be able to continue that sustainable journey, and the bike is an important way. So it's looking at the routes and the infrastructure to make sure that we've got, that the vehicles do sort of stop near cycling routes. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could get the Hart to go into the towns, and then for kids, school kids, to be able to use it and to get onto their bikes to go to school or whatever. So it's just really to think about integrating the other modes of sustainable transport for onward journeys.
Certainly, and we are looking at multimodal transport interchange type facilities to support the key stops along the route. I think it would be hard for us to commit to being able to fit lots and lots of bikes onto vehicles, but some could quite possibly be something we'd be looking to facilitate. But I equally think sort of shared mobility, shared bike schemes, and things like that at either end of a journey, so that you've got some sort of integrated transport provision is key to making this work, and giving people that sort of flexibility to do their journeys differently to how they do today, which is one of the reasons people choose to jump in their cars, and it's completely understandable. There is no alternative, and it is the most convenient way to do something.
Thanks, Rupert.
Yeah, very good point. Nana's asked a very quick question. Good question. Will the survey results be published? They will. Okay, thank you very much. And Andy, you've put two questions up, to probably easy if you come on, and one of which again about bikes, I think. But over to you, Andy. Andy, you still there, or seemingly not?
The last one on Welwyn Garden City, I'll pick up. I've copied the text, and I'll make sure we feed that back to the team.
Okay, smashing. So I've just lost
and then certainly through our bus operations, we work very closely with operators to see what we can do. And on the services that we provide as an authority, I think there is some consideration going in to make sure that the vehicles that are used are as efficient as they can be. But as ever, when technology is new, it's very expensive. So we have to balance between afford and what can be provided.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you very much for that. We're nearly at 11. I've got one last quick question about supply chain. Any thoughts yet? We talked about environmentally friendly, etc. Any thoughts on supply chain? Will you be looking at buying British, or what's your view on that one?
It would be good, wouldn't it? And there are a lot of sort of vehicle manufacturers and technology companies in the UK that are into this, and we've started doing some initial phone calls and hopefully going to see some of what's available as we get into the next stages of development of the project. Equally, we're working with a lot of locally based, well, not a lot, but we're working with locally based consultant firms at this stage.
Good.
Not necessarily UK owned, but certainly UK arms of them that are based here to help us develop this work at this stage. So yes, I think it would be something we'd be looking to do and
good
to continue.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we're Chambers here obviously to help you on that side and many other things as well. Well, listen, thank you, Rupert and Darren, for a really comprehensive run through of what's going to be a very challenging project, I'm sure, but also a very exciting one. Thank you very much. Darren, do you just mind putting up the website again where people can go on to and put their thoughts? Because I know talking to Rupert and Darren just before the call, they're really keen to hear as much as possible. They want to hear from businesses how they're finding things at the moment. So Darren, have you got, or do you want to say the website if you can't get it?
Would it be via the email now, Darren, if people wanted to
I think
the surveys
what I'll say is it's it's www.hertfordshire.gov.uk/heart HERT, but we can certainly send you out some information you can share with people that have attended.
Fantastic.
If you want link to the video again,
really useful,
and our website and our email address for the project team as well, if anyone's got any further thoughts. So
that's
again,
great.
This is sort of the start of a long dialogue, hopefully. So
a long journey. Yes. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you to everybody for listening in today. It's been very informative and some great questions. If I can just say, we've got a couple of events coming up with the Chamber, got quite a few, in fact, all on our website. One's like to promote Brexit, borders and trade webinar for those that trade overseas. That's 15th of February. It's a webinar, as I say. We've also got the March Chamber lunch, 17th of March, which is St Patrick's Day at Ware Priory. We've also got building the Sizewell C supply chain, which is very close to our hearts, Tuesday 1st of March, 8:30 till 10:30 via Zoom. So thank you for that. Thank you again to everybody. Thank you very much indeed to our speakers today, and all the very best. Have a nice rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.